Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical psychologist and a neuropsychologist, which means I've studied a lot about the brain and done a lot of evaluations and so on of brain injuries. Uh, and I am also the parent of at least one and possibly two ADHD children. And I have married into a family that has tons of ADHD. My brother-in-law, my nieces, just a whole bunch. And I have I have no personal history of ADHD, although I've got a brother I'm not sure about. But anyway, the big deal though is that I've worked with ADHD patients for 40 years. I've worked with my own family for a good long time. And well, one thing, I guess one of the blessings is I actually kind of enjoy ADHD people. I like the energy, I like the enthusiasm, I like the sense of humor, and I like the creative thinking. S- Hardly ever have a long conversation with an ADHD person without going, really? I never thought of it that way, because they think of things a little differently. Now, there's all kinds of new stuff. Okay. When my son was born, there was not even such a thing as ADHD. Okay. ADHD was not diagnosed formally till 1980. Now, the deal with that is that the way diagnoses are done, it's kind of by committee. The American Psychiatric Association gets a group of guys together, and I don't know exactly how they're selected or anything like that, but they make proposals for changes in the diagnostic system and so on. And 1980 was the first time we had ADHD. We didn't have ADHD. We had ADD, attention deficit disorder. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Then 7 years later, 87, we get ADHD, and who knows why they made that call? It wasn't anything anybody out in the field was actually asking for. But the idea was, 40 years ago, we didn't have ADHD. We didn't have ADD. Actually, what we had was hyperactive reaction to childhood, which is a mouthful, but it's also shows several assumptions that were made. One, that ADHD was a childhood disorder, and two, that it was all hyperactivity. Well, we know there's way more to it than just hyperactivity, and you don't grow out of it. You got it for life. And the probably the major thing, you've got it for life, but the overt hyperactivity tends to diminish. It's uncontrollable, shall we say? Okay. Uh, the other stuff, which I'll just to distinguish it, it's executive problems. Being able to pay attention, being able to stay focused, being able to finish the job on time, having a good sense of time passage, time management, working memory which is a biggie, and well, those are the main things that still are problems. Okay, and ADHDers, those are some things that, well, medication will improve the attention, the ability to stay focused. It does not necessarily do much about working memory or time sense or some of the other executive functions. So you got to learn to compensate. Okay, and this is lifelong. Okay, and I mean, is ADHD a disability or is it a gift? Well, I'm pretty sure most people who have it don't think of it particularly as a gift, but sometimes it can seem that way. I mean, and this is, well, you could argue about why this is, okay, they don't do some things very well, so they compensate by learning to do other things very well. Maybe, I don't know. I just know that when I think of ADHD people, I think of outside the box thinkers, creative problem solvers, people who usually have a good sense of humor, people who are uh, interested and excited about some things in their life. And yeah, I mean, I guess I know those are the good things. Those are the ones that you want to have, and I'm sure they want to have. But you still, it's, you have to learn to compensate for things, and that's why most ADHD executives, people who've managed to compensate and are, at say upper middle class, or at least middle class, most of them have coaches, because you still need some help sometimes to navigate the way, and it fluxes and it fluctuates, you don't, sometimes you need a whole lot of help, and sometimes you don't need so much help. But almost all higher level, come to think of it, higher level executives have coaches. And a lot of them, it's not just because they have ADHD, it's just because everybody who's at a certain level in a company will normally have a coach. So anyway, so good for the coaches. Anyway, but the thing you've got to learn and do if you're an adult with ADHD, and there are a couple of things. First of all, if you're an adult with ADHD and you have a family, odds are that some, if not all, of your children have ADHD. Okay, it's a genetic thing. It's a genetic predisposition. It's passed through families. Heritability index, if you're familiar with that terminology, is 85%, which is a bunch. Okay, that's almost 1 for 1. Obviously not quite, but if you had 10 choices, 8 out of the 10 are going to be have ADHD. So that's a big deal. That's one of the things that means that people who have ADHD children, probably one or both parents have ADHD. And if they don't outright have it, one, if not both, are pretty close in terms of the way their brains work and so on, which can make for some exciting Thanksgiving dinners, I'm sure. I mean, the deal with all of this stuff is you can look at it as, oh my God, this is horrible. Why did God do this to me, and that kind of thing. Or you can say, well, there are people saying, I would not want to give up my ADHD, and I don't feel as creative. I don't feel as energized. And I cannot argue with those people. And I know some people who say, oh my God, if I had to give up ADHD, I don't know what I'd do. I don't think I'd be nearly as creative, and I don't think I would have been nearly as successful in life. I don't know. That may be. On the other hand, it may just be that people who are successful with a disability of some sort have to be resilient, if not downright ornery. That is, never give up. Keep trying no matter what. Okay, that is one of the choices, and I think it's a valid point. If you look around at people who are extremely successful in different areas of their lives, a lot of times it's because they really didn't have a choice, and they, I mean, that's why if you've ever read any of the talent books, there's a whole series of books about talent written by a guy who's the, what is he? He used to be a journalist. I'm not sure what he is now, but he he went around at one time through all these different hotspots of talent, like the Brazilian soccer players and the Romanian tennis players and on and on and on. And he found that it wasn't genetic. There was not a talent pool of, because of a gene. It was because of training methods. These people were all trained a specific way, and there was a lot of overlap. So that pretty much the whole training thing was consistent. There were certain consistencies, real emphasis on proper form, very slow practices of proper form on the athletic things, even some of the music stuff the same way. But it's a fascinating read, and it is a real, well, I don't know if you've ever played kids sports, you know that half the coaches believe that if your brother was a great ball player, you're going to be a great ball player. That's totally wrong. What may be is that your brother's a great ball player because your dad worked with him countless hours making him good, and he probably did the same thing with you, but it had nothing to do with your genotype. Okay, it's totally as a result of repetition and proper form. Okay, I went off on that rip a little bit, but my dad was a golf pro, so sports performance was something that was drummed into me at an early age. And no, because your dad is a golf pro doesn't make you a great golfer. Okay, if your dad had ADHD, probably he will make you ADHD. That's just, those are the odds. But the thing for ADHD people is to understand that you will be compensating your entire life for this stuff. And it may get to the point where the compensation becomes natural, and you don't even really think about it. But you are doing something a little extra that other people don't have to do because you have ADHD. And depending on your problem areas, that's the particular compensation will be different, and it'll be something that works for you particularly, and maybe it doesn't work for everybody. That's why you need coaching and therapy and so on, because those things will bug you till you're a little old man, probably, or a little old woman. It's one of those things that had just kind of, that's the luck of the draw. I wanted to play professional basketball, but I was 5'2" tall when I was a freshman in high school. So basketball coach wasn't necessarily chasing me down the hall. So, like everything else, you have to learn to compensate for what you're given, what you're born with, what your circumstances are. And the folks who do really well as ADHDers find a unique area where their talent is, I just used talent, didn't I? Where you are interested in and you can apply yourself. When you see a list of ADHD famous people who are ADHD, you'll see a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of athletes, and a lot of CEOs. And again, it's partly, I think, that ADHDers are outside the box thinkers, and they think in a unique way, and frequently that leads to a lot of unique solutions to problems or ability to recognize problems early. And those are what you got to jump on. So remember that if you were diagnosed with ADHD as a child, or like many folks in the 30 to 40 year age, you weren't diagnosed and should have been, you have to learn to compensate. You have to figure out what the best strategies are for you to make up for the things that you don't have because your dopamine is a little bit low, and you'll have to figure out what those strategies are. And like I said, that's why most adults with ADHD see a therapist or a coach pretty regularly. But the good news is there are compensations. There are ways to handle things. It's not like you're doomed or anything that final. You can figure out ways, and you can figure out areas of talent, and live a very successful life. But as an ADHD parent, you need to make sure you've got your stuff together, because you don't want to pass down to your kid the hopelessness or depression or anxiety kind of things that a lot of ADHDers battle. Okay, you want your child to learn compensatory strategies and to never give up, and that will be useful for their entire lives. And that's probably the greatest gift you can give one of your children. Okay, I am done for this week. I am Dr. Terry James Gingrass. This has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat, the show that tries to make the world safe for ADHDers, because we need ADHDers. We need outside-the-box thinkers to solve the unique problems that we're coming upon, because we're in situations now we've never been in before. Never. And we're going to need really good problem solvers. And hopefully your ADHD child will be one of those. And if he's not, hopefully you will be. Okay? So I'm going to do more of these kind of shows where I'm talking more about ADHD through the lifespan rather than just sticking with the parenting. I'm getting a little frustrated by the limitations that imposes on me. So we're going to be doing more of that. Let me know how you feel about that. If you like it, fine. If you don't, tell me why you don't and what you'd prefer to see, so on. Okay, you can write down below here somewhere. Also, my website is terrygingrassphd.com. All kinds of information about all kinds of things I'm doing, and it's going to get growing fast pretty soon. Okay, we will see you next week.